Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo along with Eyewitness News Analyst Lt. General Reginald Centracchio. General, there's the latest of the Taliban attack in Kabul. The death toll from that explosion seems to rise as the hours are going by. Officials say right now, as of this taping on Wednesday afternoon, at least 64 people were killed, 300 were wounded. Militants obviously attacked a security area. Your take?
I want to add to that a high security area, which means to me that when you have security in place, you would think that it would be adequate enough to stop some kind of an attack like this. But it further goes to show all of us that the Taliban is not gone, and in fact, every single year it continues to grow. So the threat that the Taliban poses will continue to grow, especially as over the next several months as the weather gets better.
You know, we should mention we're talking about a security area, but really we're not talking about military officials who were killed. Most of those people who were killed were civilians.
Correct. Yeah, and that goes to once again demonstrate that they can in fact attack wherever they want to, whenever they want to, regardless of how much security you have, either be it the Afghan forces or civilian security. They can in fact penetrate it and be rather effective with it.
Does it show that the Afghan forces are struggling at this point?
I think you can say that safely, and it's fair to say. They're struggling to maintain what they have, let alone when you have the insurgents being able to penetrate high security areas. That would further exacerbate their ability to maintain the security that we would think they should be able to do with their existing forces.
What about the summer fighting season? And that does take place there.
Yeah, it does, and consequently that's what we should look to over the next several months as we get into the summertime. That's when you see a spike in the kind of activity that the Taliban has been noted for, and to get further recruitment to continuously try to penetrate positions that were heretofore not penetrable. And I think that's exactly what they're showing.
All right, we're going to talk about Iraq in a second. We're going to throw out some numbers there. Let's stay on Afghanistan a little bit more. President's original plan, General, was to cut 10,000 forces before he leaves office. Now we're seeing the violence in that region right now. Is that still a possibility?
I don't think so. I think he'd like to maintain that as the first part of a plan. But I think as we get closer to it and we see more activity, he's going to have to cut back on that significantly. We see 100 here, 200 here, and another 100 here. And eventually you're going to see those coming back to where eventually we have to be, which is in the several thousand troops that must be maintained in order for us to maintain the stability that we've seen over the last several years.
All right, I mentioned General Iraq, and we're finding out 200 plus troops will be dispatched to Iraq. We're also hearing about $415 million that will be going to that area, obviously, and 8 Apache helicopters. So special ops are going out there. Why the increase? And some people would think 200 is really not a lot.
You're right. 200 is not a lot of troops. Considering the logistics trained to support those Apache helicopters, probably would be half that. So I think we're not talking about direct troops being able to have any significant impact in whatever is going on in Iraq. But I think most of it has to do with identifying targets to be able to continually be the recipient of ordnance coming in by the use of drones.
How will this all be perceived by the people in that area? They're getting money too.
Yeah, they're getting money, and that's part of the problem. The money comes in, but it doesn't necessarily get to where it should be going. You still have an awful lot of corruption. Even with a new government in Iraq, the money never gets to where it should go. And so when we talk about millions of dollars, when you finally sift that through the whole corruption system, very few dollars get to where it actually would be needed, and that would be to actually fight the insurgents within that region.
You know, momentum is everything in military and in sports. What type of momentum, if they send troops to both Afghanistan and Iraq, would we have?
You know, we don't have an awful lot. You know, we keep talking about taking troops down. We keep talking about giving off or handing off the mission to the Iraqi forces and the Afghan forces, but it's clearly, we've seen clearly over the last several years, they are not capable of maintaining their own security. So you need to have either a composite force of the United States and other countries to be able to supplement them and give them the kind of force that they need to push back the insurgents.
Real quick, General, do we see the new president adding to the force at this point?
I would think at this point you will see, once again, this is only my opinion, I think you'll see additional troops put in after the election in November.
All right, General Centracchio, thank you for your thoughts, and thanks for watching.